Shall we get started? Good morning. Welcome to Addicted to Beer. I'm just kidding. Addicted to Gear. Beer's good too. And sometimes I feel like I am addicted to beer, but not today, not this morning. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a great Sunday thus far. Today we're going to be talking about, guess what? And it's not gear. Is it beer? Today we're going to be talking about stuff. I'm not going to commit to anything today. Could be beer, could be gear, could be a lot of other weird things. But I think today is going to be an interesting conversation because we do have a lot of things lined up for you guys. And I think you're going to enjoy it. We're offering up about an hour's worth of gear talk. And we do this every Sunday for the people that are not familiar with the channel. Addicted to Gear. It's all about guitars, guys. So if you're looking for beer talk, you're probably on the wrong channel. If you guys haven't already participated in any of the live shows, we're at number 223. So you've missed quite a bit. We do this every Sunday. 10:30 Eastern Standard Time is usually the time slot that we aim for. And we usually have a good time. So I think we're going to have to get started because we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. And like I said, about an hour's worth. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please take a moment to subscribe. I like to say that at the beginning of the show just to remind people that your support is appreciated. And of course, if you're not subscribed, there's no point in me doing these live shows. Today we're playing this guy, this monstrosity. I like to call it a monstrosity because it's a weird guitar. It's a Firebird, an Epiphone Firebird. We'll talk a little bit more about this guitar in a little bit. Today I'm going through a different setup here. Usually I go through my fractal. And I usually get the sounds through that. But today I'm actually going through the Bernetti Pleximan. I've managed to hook it up in such a way where hopefully you hear things. Let me just play a little bit here. Let me know if you hear the sound clearly or not, all right? Maybe it's too loud, I'm not sure. I'm trying to get the levels right since it's a different setup. I just set it up yesterday, so I'm not sure how it's coming through. Let's start off the day by saying hi to the folks that are here today. I think we have a few people that I recognize today. Well, let's start from the bottom. Usually we start from the top. Give me a thumbs up, first of all, guys, if the sound is okay. All right, so let's start off with Paul. Paul's here today. Paul Taylor, an excellent name, by the way, especially if you're into Taylor guitars. So Paul says, I love the shape of the Firebird, but I could never get on with it. And I understand, Paul. So let me give you a little bit of background about this guitar because this is something that is new to me too. This is the first time that I've ever had a Firebird. I never actually tried the Firebird guitars. And I figured, you know what? The channel's all about gear. We shouldn't leave any guitars out. And I decided to grab one of these guitars mainly to do a review and to see how I get along with it. Because I understand Paul's comment. A lot of people don't necessarily understand this guitar. It is a kind of weird thing. It's kind of like, I call it a monstrosity because, I mean, there's a lot of things that are weird about this guitar. The headstock, number one, is huge. Look how big this thing is. It's humongous, you know? It's kind of like the Dave Grohl reissue that they put out, but turned the other way around. Very big, you know? So that's already kind of a little bit clunky, in my opinion. But I mean, that's what it is. That's a Firebird. The neck on this guitar is very much of, you know, Gibson inspired. Then you have the pickups. These pickups are not necessarily the same as a humbucker. You can see that they're very different in terms of shape. They sound different. We'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, the body's cool on this guitar because it's a neck through. It's one piece, right? The neck goes all the way through the guitar. It's not glued in at the joint here. It goes all the way through, which I think is cool. The body is on the thin side, a little bit like an SG, I would say. There's a lot of similarities in terms of the thickness on the guitar, like the SG. Of course, the switch is up here instead of being down here. There's a lot of interesting things about this guitar. So, you know, I just wanted to say that I'm going to be doing a review on this guitar. And I'm going to give you my opinion on it based on the fact that I've never tried it before. I'm trying to leave any kind of preconceptions, you know, out of my mind. I want to go into it as a new Firebird player and give you my opinion on this guitar based on the fact that I've never tried it before, and it's a very different looking and playing guitar. So if anybody, you know, is interested in Firebirds, you might want to tune in for that review. That's probably coming this week. All right. So Wayne is here. Hey, Wayne. Wayne says, hi, everybody. Hi, Wayne. How are you? Are you having a good week so far, Wayne? The Nye says, good morning as well. Good morning to you. MFN. Does the big headstock balance the body, or does it have neck dive? Well, I mean, it is kind of a weird shape, and it's I'm going to say on a strap, I mean, there is some neck dive. I think the center of gravity on this guitar is, you know, somewhere over here. Somewhere here, maybe. You know? So it's kind of, you are going to get a little bit of neck dive for sure with this guitar. And that's something that some people don't like, you know? So I'll point that out in the video. I'll put my pros and cons on the guitar, so everybody who's looking at maybe buying one of these can go into it with a good idea of what to expect. Mark says the one I played had neck dive. You know, I think a lot of these guitars do. I mean, look at the size of the headstock, man. How can it not have neck dive? Check it out. You know, I've even heard people doing things like putting some extra weight in the cavity here to sort of balance out the weight. You know, putting little grippers on the strap so it doesn't do that. You know, when you're playing it, you know, it works. When you're playing it with the strap, it works. But yeah, I think if you're not used to a guitar with such a long neck, that is an issue. The great thing about these guitars, though, is like the SGs, man, you have access to the full spectrum of all the way up here, man, you know? The very last fret, no issues at all. You got the full spectrum there. All right, who else is here today? So Wayne is here. Good week, guys. Hello to Gene and Kush, he says. Scott Anthony says Firebirds are great guitars. The reason I'm interested in trying out this guitar, Scott Anthony, is mostly about the pickups. These are not typical humbuckers or P90s actually either. Or either. Either? How do you guys say it? Depends on where you're from, I guess. The Epiphone has what they call... what do they call these pickups in here? They're ProBuckers. I think they're called FB's 720s, if I'm not mistaken. And it's interesting because these pickups are a little bit, they're a little bit different. They're supposed to be around the original specifications of the Gibson Firebird pickups, the ones from the mid 60s. I think they have Alnico 2s in them, but the magnets are used as blades. So they're not made the same way as regular pickups. They provide, I guess, a clean tone, but they're a little warmer, I would say. They have warmer lows. So this is what I'm interested in really trying out and seeing if it actually, does it for me. All right, so Profile Productions is here. He says, how is your amp doing? Which amp? You got to be a little bit more specific. Cushman says Johnny Winter played one a lot. And oh, that's a good question. MFN says, Tony, how's the Firebird sound through your new Tone King? Well, I didn't actually buy the Tone King yet. I know a lot of you have been asking me about that. Yeah, I guess I owe you guys a follow-up on that, because I did put out a video where I went and tried the Tone King. And I think I haven't really pulled the trigger on it yet. The reason for that is because it's, number one, a fantastic amplifier. Let's just get that out of the way and start the conversation just saying how impressed I was with the Tone King. It's a fantastic amplifier. And to be honest with you, the sound samples that I played in the video were just like, I hardly touched the controls. There's so many tones in that amplifier that can be had that, I think it would be a great addition to any amplifier collection, bar none. I mean, it's a fantastic amplifier, very well built. Now, the reason why I haven't actually pulled the trigger on it is, one, the cost. It's uber expensive. And two, I wanted to reevaluate where it fit in the mix with my other amplifiers that I have here. And, I started playing the amplifiers that I have with that comparison in mind. And to be honest with you, man, there's a lot of great tones that I have in these amplifiers here. The Marshall, the Friedman Dirty Shirley, the one I'm playing today here, the Brunetti Pleximan. They're all fantastic amplifiers. And the thing is, with those amplifiers here, there's a lot of overlap. And, I can't really justify in having another amplifier that can give me the same stuff. Not the same. I mean, Tone King is not necessarily the same. It's different in its own way. But it's basically, I'm going to say, at least, 70% of the sounds that I can already get here, I can probably get with the Tone King as well. The major difference is the fact that it does have the attenuators built in. That is fantastic, But if you have something like an aux box or something like that here, you don't really need that. Because I can play, like I'm playing the Brunetti right now through the aux box in the 50 watt mode. And I would never be able to play the 50 watt mode cranked. I mean, on the tone scale here, going from 0, it's about, I don't know, 5, let's say. And I'll just give you a taste, okay? Just so you guys know. So this is clean. When I say clean, by the way, I'm not using any pedals or anything. I'm just going through the thing here. Through the aux box, it's giving a little bit of reverb. But if I play a clean chord, for example, the clean sound of the amplifier is basically this. So it's very clean. This is basically the clean channel of the amplifier, and the clean channel on this amplifier, all it gives you is just volume and tone, 2 knobs. You just dial in the tone to make it brighter or darker, but there's no other controls. Then if I go to channel 1, then I have the main controls dialed in, and that's kind of what you heard before. And then there's hot rod mode. which is even more pumped up. So it's really... So you do get a lot more drive out of it. And this is just the amplifier with no pedals. And if you throw pedals on top of this, you can get so many sounds. It's incredible. So, you know, that being said, that's just one of the amplifiers, right? The other ones are, they do their own thing as well. So I'm going to have to think a little bit more about that and see whether or not it's worthwhile for me. But I think I'm really enjoying the amps that I do have. And it's going to take a lot to knock any of those amps off the totem pole. So bear with me till I decide. I might still pull the trigger. I haven't decided not to yet, but I'm still thinking about it. Rexomatic. How's it going, dude? Portland, Maine. I was in Maine not too long ago. Very nice place. He says he's heading up to Nova Scotia on a fall colors / board game geek cruise. That sounds interesting. Very cool. Gene says brutal licks. Yeah, they are a little brutal. A little rough around the edges, I would say. Remember, Gene, the show's free. You get what you pay for. Says Tony's punishing my neighbors. Yeah, something like that. So if you guys have questions for me, guys, please put a question mark or double question mark in front of your question so I know it's for me. And I'll answer your questions, all right? Wayne is here. Says, Steve, that was a good interview. I'm not sure what we were talking about there. I'm going backwards in the comments, guys, so bear with me on that. Dewey, how's it going, buddy? Mazzetti's here as well. Saw ELO last weekend. Great show. Are they still holding up? Very cool. Gene says brutal is good. All right, nice to hear that. Great. Paul says he just got a Lecato WS70 wireless. He says it's a 99% of dropouts are from Wi-Fi. And most units run at 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz, both Wi-Fi. The Lecato uses 500 millihertz, not used for Wi-Fi. $31 USD, only 3-inch by 1-inch. Sounds cord-like. Nice to know that there's options out there for people who do want to go wireless. Seems very inexpensive. 31 bucks seems almost like too cheap. Interesting. Thanks for that, Paul. Keep them coming, man. Always like your suggestions. Jack says, Tony, I'm loving my Epiphone limited edition. Glad to hear that, Jack. It's always fantastic to have a new guitar to play with. Epiphones, you can't really go wrong with Epiphones, can you? Has anyone here ever bought an Epiphone and then didn't like it? Open question to the group here. I'm curious. Vox says, since Tony is playing his guitar, anyone know why Dolly Parton is in the Hall of Fame, but Johnny Winter isn't? I kind of can guess why she's in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if we could talk about that here, though. Marcel says he received his Spark 2 amp. He pre-ordered. He said it's really nice. Hey, glad to hear you're liking it, Mike. Marcel, the Spark 2, did you have the Spark 1, or is this the first time you try a Spark amp? I'm curious to know whether or not, if you already had the other Spark, if you can give us some feedback on how it sounds, how the new one sounds. A lot of people are talking about the Spark. Some people like it, some people don't. I guess it depends what you're looking for. Eddie Jr. says, Tony, I can get clean tones and dirty lead tones. I struggle with edge of breakup tones. Any suggestions? Well, yeah, I can give you suggestions. What kind of amp, first of all? The first thing I would suggest, Eddie, is play with the volume knob on your guitar. A lot of people forget that volume here does something. It's not just there to make things louder. You know what I mean? So if you can get dirty lead tones and you can get clean tones, you can easily, I would say, start playing around with, dialing in your dirty tones. Not super, super saturated, but, a nice dirty tone. And then roll back your volume a little bit, maybe like 70%. It should get you there. It should get you there. Again, it's hard for me to say without knowing what kind of amplifier you're using and what your settings are. Searching for Tone says, bought the cheapest Epiphone Les Paul, didn't think it was worth the money. What is the cheapest? Which one was it? Do you know what model it was? And Mississippi Blue says, hey Tony, new guitar day this week, an Eastman T59V Classic Burst, great guitar. Congratulations, dude. Those are awesome guitars. The Eastmans are great, man. Not bad at all, I own an Eastman too, semi-hollow. Yesterday I played their version of the Les Paul. Really nice feeling guitar. And the only thing I didn't really like about it, and it's, it was nothing to do with the sound or the playability of the guitar or the feel. It was more the look. Their Eastman Les Paul style guitars have a little rounded horn here instead of the traditional pointy Les Paul horn. I don't know why, just like, I'm used to the classic look. I guess they had to do that for legal reasons probably, but that was the only reason why I didn't like the guitar. The neck was fantastic on it. Felt really great. Cool Tune says, I've had 2 Epiphones, was never completely satisfied. Okay, so what does that mean? Like 90% satisfied? 80% satisfied? 70? What were the main points that didn't satisfy you about the Epiphones? Was it the pickups, the feel, the look, quality, price? That's the thing when we're looking at these Epiphone guitars. I think because the prices slowly creep up, they are getting a little bit more, I guess they're forcing the consumers to be a little bit more picky about what the guitar can do. Because if the guitar was, $700, let's say, around there, wouldn't be too bad. I don't think people will be too picky. But when it's over $1,000, I think that's what they are now. Most of them are over $1,000. You tend to be more picky. And I'm for Cool Tunes, man. I totally agree with being 100% satisfied with a purchase. And if I'm not, I'll bring it back. I'm known for that. I'm notorious for that, actually. But you're spending hard-earned money, man. To earn $1,000, you got to earn like $2,000, after taxes and everything else. So it's like, yeah, man, be picky. Marcel says, I can think of 2 good reasons why Dolly Parton is in the Hall of Fame. And those are 2 big reasons, too. Just kidding, Marcel. Polly's Guitar and Gear. Welcome. Hey, Polly. What's up? Polly says, my least favorite neck of any guitars I've played is the Epiphone Slim D. So I was super happy to see it mostly disappear in the range refresh few years back. The Slim D, huh? Most people like thick Ds, I guess. See, we're already going down that slippery slope, Polly. See what you've done? Yeah, I understand. I'm not a big fan of super slim necks myself. But that being said, man, the neck on my SG that I got, such a great neck, man. It's slim, but it's not super slim. But I'm gonna go out on the ledge and say that I think right now the SG guitar that I have is probably the most fun guitar to play. It's so much fun to play. I can't put it down. Hey Dan, what's happening? Marcel did have another Spark. He had the Spark Go. So tell us what the main difference between the Spark Go and the new one is, Marcel, just for people that might be considering getting one. I can't really comment on any of that because I never actually played or owned the Spark or this, the new one or the old one. Hey Ken, what's happening, dude? My Logify says, Tony, do you find those pickups similar to classic 57s? The ones in here? No. I don't think they sound like classic 57s. They have a little bit of a rounder bottom to them, and they're not as bitey. They're a little bit, I would say, almost smoother sounding. I don't know if I can describe that properly, but they do sound a little bit smoother. You can get like a... You can get it to sound like... On the cleans, you can get the... Like, it's not going to clean up like a Strat will or a Telecaster. But it's not as fat as a Les Paul. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can hear it. And that's just the neck pickup. If I put it on, sorry, the bridge pickup. If I put it on the neck, you can hear how much rounder and fat it's. It's actually very pleasant. But it sounds very different than a... And these are new strings, so it goes out of tune quite well. Quite well, actually, because the other thing is, look at where the low E string is. It's all the way up here. Usually on normal guitars, the low E string will end here, right? So now you get this much more low E. So I think that really does change the tone quite a bit. And that's, a lot of the quirkiness of these guitars is really based on the design of them. But it's pretty cool. It's interesting in its own way. Vox says, I like every Epiphone I've had, but friends have bought the entry-level bolt-on Les Paul, and it's pretty hit and miss. I understand, yeah. I kind of tend to avoid bolt-on necks on a Les Paul style guitar. I don't know why that is, because I mean, all of the Telecasters and Stratocasters and Suhr guitars and Charvel guitars, like the majority of the guitars out there are bolt-on. But there's something about having a bolt-on neck on a Les Paul guitar that I don't like. It's like it shouldn't be. So I don't know if that's the reason why perhaps they don't bond with those Epiphones, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that I personally wouldn't purchase. Jack says, I love every Epiphone I have ever bought. I think most people do, Jack. The ones I bought, I liked generally. I think if you're coming from owning different style guitars, like if you have Gibsons already, you know what I mean? You will see the differences between a Gibson model and an Epiphone model. They're not identical. So, if you're really, really picky and you're looking for exactly the same feel, touch or action that you would get on a Gibson, sometimes the Epiphones will not necessarily give you that. So if you're super picky and you want to be 110% satisfied, then it might not do it for you. But you're also not paying the guitar as much. So you got to be, aware of that. You can't expect it to be identical. It wouldn't make any sense, right? Mark says, my kid has an Epiphone Les Paul Special, and it sucks. The thing is, I think a lot of the Special line, especially the Epiphones, the Studio, maybe not the Studio as much, but the Special, I'm not sure. Some of them are, yeah, they're pretty hit and miss. I think you have to go to a certain level with the Epiphones before you can get the consistency that most people are looking for. You know, I can't really say because I've never purchased a Les Paul Special. I've never actually even purchased a Les Paul Studio. Mark's tried apparently. And then you just can't get it to play properly. Well, chalk one up to experience, Mark. Dump that thing. Get your son something a little bit better, you know? Searching for tone says Warren Special. Warren Special won $199. Most times found for $149. Sorry, I'm missing the topic here. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. Warren Special. Grandpa Guitarist says he's fallen in love with Tease guitars. $144 and with steel frets. I guess you mean stainless steel frets. Interesting, $144. I'm not familiar with Tease guitars, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. If anybody else owns one, please pipe in. We want to hear from you guys. Excuse me, I got something stuck in my throat. Let me just take a sip here. Eddie Jr. says, Paulie's guitar and gear, I absolutely love the PRS wide thin. Just goes to show how we are all different. Well, that's one thing we can definitely agree upon, is that everybody has a different idea of what a good guitar should feel like. I think everybody sort of is looking for something slightly different. But basically, I think the consensus is a good guitar for most people is a guitar that doesn't get in the way. In other words, when you're playing, you're not struggling with it. If you start struggling with a guitar, usually it's not a good guitar for you. It could be great for someone else, depending on how they play, their style and whatnot. But, you know, when you finally find a guitar that you don't struggle with, that's usually the one that stays, especially if it sounds good. I think we can all agree on that. Guys, I want to remind you, please give me some thumbs up. I would appreciate that. We have 58 people so far here today. I would appreciate if you guys take a moment and give the channel a thumbs up. It definitely helps us. And it takes a second. If you're close to that button, please hit it. Good morning, Alex. What's happening? Alex2112. Cushman says, new guitar day. Picked up a 92 Les Paul standard plain top honey burst. Wow, I love those. Standard plain tops, man. There's something to be said about those. I think a lot of people end up really searching for those flamed tops and whatnot. But I like the plain. I like the plain tops sometimes. It's sort of understated class, I would say. You know, people who know. You don't always have to get those flames. You know what I mean? Like the Les Paul that I have, the Tokai Les Paul, which I consider one of my favorite guitars in my lineup, is just a plain top, and it looks great. Very different from my Les Paul, my Gibson Les Paul, which is heavily flamed. Searching for tone says, feel sound and had a slight crack in the neck. So everything, basically. Wow, okay. You didn't get lucky on that purchase. Presley says, shoot, you can get a Presley for under $1,000. Hey, Presley, what's going on? Yeah, let's not forget our friend Presley. He can hook you up with some really cool guitars. If you're looking for a custom job, sometimes you don't have to look very far. You can find the right person right here. The Gospel of Mark says, I'd buy a lower end PRS SE over any cheap Epiphone any day. You know what? Yeah, I think the quality on the PRS SEs are really good. You can't really beat them. you can get a really low cost SE, and you know, most of the time it's going to play really well. You won't have any issues with it. Man, I'm falling behind on the chats here. Sorry, I'm going to scroll on down here. Let's see here. SB says vintage V100 is a cool guitar. A musical friend of mine from high school had that guitar as a gigging instrument. Vintage V100 is cool. Yeah, man, those vintage guitars are great. I have one too. Hey, Charles, what's happening, dude? Jim Cox says, I bought a vintage brand LP copy and it weighs 10.4 pounds. It's a pound heavier than my Les Paul standard. That's heavy, man. Heavy. I wouldn't want to go beyond 8.5 pounds on a guitar normally. 10 pounds is a lot. So Searching for Tone says, +1 on T's guitars. I received 2 so far. I'm a garbage player, beginning again, but they are worth 3 times the money you pay. That's always great when you can get an inexpensive guitar that you feel is batting above the average. There's not that many that you can get for, that you can find that way. SB says, the thing is, I was about to buy a Joyo Aquarius from same series. Do you like that Joyo pedal quality-wise? The Joyo Aquarius I haven't tried. I don't even know what type of a pedal it is. What is that? Aquarius. Let me just check it out here. So the Aquarius is a delay. I haven't tried that one. That's the new line. $129 on Amazon. I like the new lines. Ooh, I'm getting tangled up here, guys. I like the new lines of guitars from Joyo. I think they're pretty cool. But I haven't tried that one. Oh man, I think someone's at my door. Sorry guys, I had to do that. I had to get it out. Every once in a while I'll just go crazy. SB says, I mean that Dumble clone you tried in Joyo of the same series. Is it a good quality wise? Aquarius is the same series. Yeah, the Joyo I tried. So there's quite a few Joyo pedals that I had. I think it was the Tai Chi, this guy. Yeah, I like that series. I think they're well built. They're, as far as I can tell, they're good quality pedals. I have a few more lined up that I want to actually review for you guys. Excuse me, I just haven't had the chance to do it. Yeah, that's the Brunetti, Alex. That's the Brunetti. It's a great amplifier, man. I should be playing it more. Sorry, I'm scrolling back just to see what other comments. Steve says, do you like a guitar that fights you a little, or does it have to play like butter for you to like it? You know what? I can put up with a little bit of fight depending on the tone of the guitar. You know, if it sounds really great, I'll say, yeah, you know, like I'll put up with the little annoyances. But generally, if a guitar plays like butter and sounds great, it's going to be the number one. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the SG guitar that I have is like so much fun to play. And, you know, SGs were never my number one. My go-to guitar was never an SG. It was always either a Strat or a Telecaster, or Les Paul. But SGs, I was just getting into it. And they're great. And it's fantastic. All right. Thanks for the info. Appreciated. Yeah, probably going to try a few pedals in a few days' time. Yeah, check them out. As the Joyo line is good. They're not gonna let you down. I've had Joyos for a long time. They've never died on me. You know what I mean? So you're really gonna enjoy them. Scott Anthony says a Firebird is on my bucket list for sure. They are unique and have their own sound. It's an incredible guitar to offset the sound of a Les Paul in a mix. Different guitar, totally different. You know, different feel, different look, different sound. It's very interesting as a guitar, especially if you have never tried one before. Cushman says, I just noticed your shirt, Tony. Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize it says something a little different, eh? All right, what do you guys want to talk about? You know, I have a lot of topics that I want to cover today. And I think you guys probably have some interesting questions as well. So I wanted you to take the time to ask your questions first before we jump into other topics, then get sidetracked. We've been talking 42 minutes. It's probably going to be another 15 or so before we wrap it up. So get your questions in, all right? In the meantime, I wanted to say there is the poll question, so please don't hesitate to answer that. The poll question is basically what you think about Firebird guitars, because there's going to be a video coming up, a full review on this guitar for you guys. So if you've never actually tried a Firebird and you're considering it, or maybe you're wondering whether or not you'd bond with it, well, that's going to be that video. But I wanted to see what you guys think about, how many of you actually have tried one, because it's the first time I try one, so it's brand new to me. Mark's headed to a gig. Hey, Mark, you're gigging again this weekend. Fantastic, dude. Keep up the great work, man. Hey, your dance card is full when it comes to gigs. That's fantastic, dude. Keep it up. Hope you're having a good time. Cooltone says, my Marshall SV20 got a great deal from Germany. Now I need to replace the transformer on the North American. Damn savings went out the door, and Cosmos has my amp for 4 months. Oh, I see. Yeah, you got a German version. Yeah, the power rating and the power supplies and stuff, no good for North America. Yeah, man. Oof, you're gonna have to change all that. Why don't you just sell the amp, man, instead of spending 4 months and all that effort to do all the mods on it? Why don't you just sell it and just buy a different one that's made for North America? It's a lot of work. Alex says, love Firebirds, but I'd rather have an Explorer. Yeah, I think the Firebirds and the Explorers are kind of in the same vein. I kind of think the Explorers are maybe cooler guitars and less quirky. Although the body takes a little getting used to. Plus the cases are huge. The case for this one too is pretty big, man. It's almost like a bass case because of the length of the headstock on this thing. Like if you take a regular guitar and put it side by side with this one, let me just show you what I mean. Like, look at the difference. Here, let me just grab another guitar. Here. Look at the difference here. Quite a difference. I mean, it's only a few inches really, but it makes a huge difference when you're playing the guitar, you know? Plus, one thing I don't like about this one here is that you can't really put on a guitar stand easily if it's the, you know, the stands that holds the guitar at the bottom here, holds the neck, you know, the regular stands, the cheapy stands, doesn't stay put. You need one that holds the neck, and that's got to be pretty high. So there's a lot of little things, a lot of little things. SB says some amps have universal voltage, both USA and Europe. You are just unlucky, I guess. That's too bad, man. Paul has another suggestion. The Joyo bargain is the Bright Day, he says. A Boss Wazacraft Blues Driver clone, dead on the same sound for 40 bucks. So if you're into the Wazacraft and you're into the Blues Driver, 40 bucks is a good deal. Thanks for that. I don't particularly like the Blues Driver sound. I had a Blues Driver a long time ago. Didn't keep it though. Peter England wants to know where I'm at with the Tone King. Peter, I guess you just tuned in. I talked about that a little earlier. Maybe when you watch the rerun, you'll get that part of it. But in a nutshell, I haven't actually pulled the trigger on the amplifier yet, and I explained why previously. So you'll hear that. You'll see what I mean why. MFN says that Firebird is a beast. That's an excellent side-by-side comparison. It is a beast. It's pretty big, man. That's what she says. I mean, I don't know why we're going down that slippery slope again. Rexomatic says, just getting to know my new SG, a Cherry with P90s, my first SG. Where did you start exploring SG tone? Pete Townsend? Yeah, the story about me and SGs is a funny one because I never actually appreciated the SGs very much. In the whole time I've been playing guitars, it's kind of, I've overlooked SGs. I played one once way back, and I think what ended up happening was that I didn't bond with that guitar for whatever reason. Maybe it just wasn't the model, the right model, or I don't know what, but I played it. I'm like, nah, SGs are not for me. And ever since then, I kind of just never looked back. And I regret it so much because I finally ended up buying an SG, and they're fantastic guitars. And since then, I've purchased a few more. One with P90s as well. And man, I'm kicking myself. I never actually liked the look of an SG all that much. I always thought that, you know, being a thin guitar like that and having the horns and the association with, you know, devil music, AC/DC, you know, back in the day. I don't know what it was. The devil's horns. I don't know what it was, but it didn't actually do it for me because most of the music I was listening to back then, most of my guitar heroes didn't play SGs. I wasn't into AC/DC. I wasn't into Black Sabbath, you know, and there's other people that play SG style guitars back in the day as well, like Pete Townsend and others. But I never really bonded with that guitar. I was mostly a Strat guy to begin with. Then Les Paul guitars, then Telecasters, then finally an SG, and now Firebirds, you know. First time I'm actually playing around with a Firebird. So never let it be said that, you know, you know it all or you've experienced it all. You got to actually try things more than once sometimes, you know. Sometimes it's just your mind space. You're in a place in time, and an SG is not the right guitar for you at that time. But that doesn't mean it won't change. Yeah, Zappa too. Of course, we can't forget Zappa. SG, for sure. Tony Iommi, yeah. Angus, of course. SG is like a portable Les Paul. It doesn't weigh much. It's convertible and gets the job done. I don't know what you mean by convertible. Maybe you mean comfortable? Humbuckers, yeah. Hey Max, what's happening, dude? Max is here. Vinny's World says, hey Tony, sorry a bit late. Was updating my PC. No worries, dude. Ian says, Johnny Winter Firebird. It's funny how the Firebird is automatically associated with Johnny Winter. You know, even though I think there's a lot more modern players that are embracing the Firebird now. It's coming back. You know, I think people are looking for guitars that don't necessarily fit the mold as much. It's not overdone, and I think the Firebird is one of those guitars. There's a lot of other guitar companies making Firebird clones, I would say, or homages to Firebird guitars that are fantastic as well, but they're a lot more expensive. A lot of them are boutique, you know, custom built guitars that cost a lot of money. Yeah, trucks too. Can't forget Dwayne Allman. Yeah, a lot of people played the SGs, man. Eddie says, I grew up with Charvel, Jackson, Kramer. I'm just getting into more traditional guitars. Yep, I'm an idiot, he says. I wouldn't consider yourself, don't consider yourself an idiot. You know, the beauty of it is you still have a lot to explore. That's the fun part. Gene says, I saw the Winter Boys jamming with Ronnie Montrose and Rick Derringer. Loud rock and roll. Yeah, man. That's the best kind of rock and roll. What's loud rock and roll? David said, I heard an interview with Angus where he said, I like the SG because I'm a small guy with small fingers. That's when I decided. An SG is light. You know, it's not as heavy as a regular Les Paul. I don't know about the finger thing because, I mean, I don't think the fretboard's any smaller than a Les Paul, but I think the weight has a lot to do with it. And the access to the higher frets. Alex says, what about Alan Collins? Isn't he a Firebird guy? Anyone here heard of Lynyrd Skynyrd? I think we've heard of that before. It rings a bell. I got to be honest. For me, the reason why I ended up sort of wanting to try the Firebird is Scott Holiday from Rival Sons. He plays a lot of really nice Firebird style guitars. They're not Gibsons, I don't think. They're made by another guitar company, but they're really nice sounding guitars. Really cool. They have a lot of mojo. Peter England says, bought my first SG after seeing Pete Townsend in Woodstock movie way back. Yeah, and I think he was playing the SG specials. I think. David says the neck is thinner. Yeah, typically a lot of the, or at least the one I have, the SG's neck, the neck is thinner, and that's what I really love about it. Mark says Warren Haynes occasionally plays a Firebird. I think he might even have a signature one. They don't. You know what? The only thing I wish, and maybe Epiphone's holding out on this, they don't have a lot of color choices. You know, it's basically this, or they have a one pickup version, which is what color is it? Is it a teal? Some kind of a, I don't know what color it is exactly. It's like in the light blues, I think. But that's it. They should offer different color choices. If they would offer different color choices, I don't think this would have been my first choice. My Logify says Angus Young has an even slimmer neck. There's no neck in Gibson you can buy with that neck. Really? Well, that's going to be pretty slim, because mine's already pretty slim. I don't know how much slimmer you can get on those necks without them just breaking off. Max says, I just bought a cheap Squier Affinity 70 style Strat to mod. We'll be using Fender Tex-Mex pickups and maybe a Floyd Rose tremolo. Very cool, dude. I would probably think twice about putting a Floyd on that. I don't think you really need a Floyd, but if your heart is set on a Floyd, great. But Floyds are high maintenance. They really are. I've kind of that boat has sailed for me. Floyds are not going to be something I'm going to actively be looking for. Villy. Villy's new. I've never seen you here before. Welcome. I think Villy has a question. How to be great at improvising? I guess the first thing is to play with a lot of people. One of the things that people overlook is how much you improve when you play with a real band or a group of other musicians and playing with different styles. Because if it basically throws you in uncharted territory. Like if you're playing with a band that primarily plays funk, for example, and you've never played funk, maybe you're a blues guitarist or a rock guitarist, all of a sudden you're going to be thrown in unfamiliar territory where you're going to have to think on your feet and listen and be able to, like, you know, find the groove and mesh with the rest of the band. I think that's kind of like the idea of throwing you into the water with the sharks. You got to basically learn how to swim real fast. But that's a great way of doing it. It's just throwing yourself into other types of styles of music. One of the things I like to do also, and I should do more of actually, is, you know, when you're a guitarist, you tend to listen to other guitarists and pick up parts based on other guitarists. Listen to other styles of music. Like, in other words, listen to music that has saxophone in it and try and play the saxophone line on your guitar. You know, something that you would not normally play on guitar. And that's a great way of sort of coming up with refreshing ideas and learning how to improvise, because you're playing different styles that are kind of very different. If that makes sense. Ian says Robbie Krieger. Yeah, we forgot about Robbie. I don't know if it's just me, but I never really thought of Robbie Krieger as an amazing guitarist. You know, he did what he had to do within the doors, that's for sure, but he never really sticks. Like, whenever I think of guitar, rock guitar, I'm not going to say gods, but, you know, good guitar players, I don't necessarily, like, he won't come up on the list very often. Max is having a great time modding these inexpensive guitars. That's what it's all about, dude. Having fun. Warren Haynes sounds good on any guitar. That is true. Squiers are cool. Tried 40 anniversary Strats, around 450 bucks. Amazing Strats. So yeah, Squiers are pretty good. I said it last week, and Squiers are really forcing Fender to up their game. Because, you know, if the low-end guitars are so good and people really like those Squier guitars, it's going to make the other guitars even better, I think. Man, I'm falling behind in the chat here. David says, I've been diving into Delta Blues for inspiration lately. Very cool. Yeah, go back to the roots, man. Alex says, Tony, do those Firebird pickups come like a Strat? Do you have a noise gate between your amp? No, I don't have a noise gate. There's no noise gate. I'll turn it up here. You're saying basically, are they noisy like a Strat? Is that what you're asking me? Well, here, look. Now the guitar's turned on. So basically, and if I put it to the dirty channel, you'll hear some noise, but not that much. So you can see there's, it's not noisy. This is on the bridge pickup, by the way. They're not noisy. They don't have as much bite though, considering they're smaller pickups. All right, cool. Oh. Nella says, Tony, I have a Friedman Little Sister 20 watt head coming today. I hope it meets or exceeds my expectations. My only $sign amp. Dude, I think you're going to love that amplifier. If you like chewy tones, you know, the Little Sister is fantastic. You know, I have the larger version of that amplifier. I think the Little Sister is really cool. You can definitely crank it higher, a little bit louder than the 40 watt version. And all the Friedman amps are good. I think you're going to love it. It's a great amplifier because the higher gain Friedman amplifiers, they're too saturated. So you can't get them to clean up all that much. So if all you're playing is like overdriven, super saturated sounds, they're fantastic. But if you want to get an amplifier that can clean up a little bit, you got to go a little bit less aggressive, and the Little Sister is in that sweet spot. And you can get it to get as aggressive as you want with pedals too, don't forget. Jeff says, I had a gig last night, Tony. The other 3 band members cried off on Monday. After my rage subsided, I got practical. Small mixer, iPad, 2 Headrush speakers, Tonex, Pro backing tracks. It's the future. I don't understand what you mean by cried off on Monday. So basically you're simplifying, well, you're not really simplifying, it's becoming more complicated, but you're covering more ground, I guess. Interesting that you went with the Tonex as well. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, man. Alex2112 says, I want a Brunetti amp next. They sound good. They do sound good, Alex, and they're not that expensive. They're still relatively affordable. And they're built really, really well. I mean, there's not really a sound I can't get with the Brunetti. You know, I can get full tilt saturation if I wanted to, like a really fat sound, or I can edge of breakup, clean. It's all in there. It's just really getting to know your amp. Max says, Villy says, yesterday I played guitar in my yard with a Boss Katana MK2 set to full volume, 50 watts. It's very loud, but no one complained. When you're playing outside, it's usually, you know, you usually don't get that many complaints because the sound disperses. When you're in a room and you crank it that way, you'll probably get some complaints. Quit the band. I see what you mean. All right, guys, let's look at the poll question before we forget. Let's do it. Let's see here. Let me just get to it. Give me a second. Poll question. So you know how to get to it. You go to the Addicted to Gear channel. You get to the community tab. In there, you see the poll question. So the poll question was, what's your take on the Gibson or Epiphone Firebird? I mentioned Gibson and Epiphone in the same poll because, you know, they're basically very similar, not the same. 117 votes, and the #1 response was, I love the Firebird. It's iconic and has a unique look and sound. 38% of you said that, which is good to hear. I thought there'd be less people that would be interested in the Firebird. The second most popular question is the opposite. I've never tried one, but I'm curious about its tone and feel. So a lot of you fit into the category that I was in. I've never tried one either, and I was actually curious about the tone and feel. So I fall into that category as well. Next, it was, I like it, but I prefer other Gibson Epiphone models. I did also fall into that category recently. I have always looked at other Gibson or Epiphone models before looking at one of these. And 10% of you said, I don't like it. Too bulky and not comfortable to play. That's what we're going to find out. And that's what I'm going to be giving you my opinion on when I do the full review on this guitar, which is coming up. So stay tuned for that. And then finally, 9% of you said it's cool, but the reverse body shape isn't my style. It does take a little bit, getting used to. This is not a typical guitar body. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable guitar body either. I mean, if you're coming from a Telecaster, for example, which is pretty, blocky as well, you might not feel too bad going to this one. But if you're coming from something like a Strat, which is very contoured and fits your body super nice, this one might be a little bit more of a challenge for you. But it's all good. It's all good. Hey, did you guys hear about poor Brian May had a stroke? He announced this week that he had a minor stroke. He wasn't able to feel his left arm. And that, that's always scary when you're a musician, man. You always feel like that's the end of that, God giveth, God taketh away really quickly. So I'm happy that he's better. Apparently he's still able to play now. But that's a scary thing when you hear that. You know what I mean? Wow. Not a good thing for a guitarist, that's for sure. And did you also hear that Bon Jovi saved someone? Apparently he talked some poor distressed woman off the ledge of a Nashville bridge. He happened to just be walking by and talked her off the ledge. Talk about being at the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? Would you still jump if a famous person comes along and talks to you? And I think he was able to calm her down, reassure her, talk her off of the ledge. And that's interesting that that happened. Wow. I wonder if she was on the ledge because she didn't like Bon Jovi music and couldn't bear to listen to another song. That would be quite a bad thing. I'm joking. I like Bon Jovi. I like the music. They're great. And it's fantastic that he was able to do that. So kudos to him, man. Very, very cool. And the last thing I wanted to say, I want to give a kudos. I want to end it on a good note. I want to give a kudos out to the Gibson CEO, Caesar. I recently saw videos that Gibson is putting out where he's actually going through the process of building actual guitars. So he's going through the process, every stage of the build process. And he's doing it hands-on. I think every CEO of every guitar company should be able to do that, He's coming into Gibson. He wasn't not actually working there and worked his way up, so he came in. So we don't even know if he knows what the process is. We think he does. We hope he does. But maybe he doesn't, right? So now he's going, and from what I can tell, they're building a guitar step by step. He's putting all the work into building a guitar with the employees that actually do all of the processes, which is fantastic. If I was a CEO of a guitar company, that's the first thing I would do. I would, meet everybody, go to their stations, spend not just an hour. I'd spend a week at every station doing what they do, learning how it's done, maybe thinking about better ways of doing it. And at the end of the day, I think you appreciate your employees, you appreciate the art form, because it is an art form. Building a guitar is an art form. You either know how to do it, you have the skills to do it, or you don't. That's what makes a so-so guitar a fantastic guitar. It's people putting in all the little elements to make the final product. And being able to do that as a CEO means that you understand the entire process. You understand how crappy it is to be doing the same stuff over and over again as an employee. Maybe you can make it better for them. Maybe you could, tweak or optimize things. I'd love to be able to do that, man. If I was working in a place that made guitars, I would love it. That's the first thing I would definitely do. So kudos to him. We like to beat up Gibson sometimes because we do expect a lot from them. And, there's always something to complain about. But when I see the people doing that, it warms my heart. So basically, I appreciate that. I like what I'm seeing, and I hope they keep that up. And hopefully it will lead to making even better guitars. That's the goal. All right, guys, I think that's it for this week. We are about over the 1 hour mark, so I'm gonna save a little for next week. We'll be back next Sunday with more chit chat on Addicted to Gear Live. I appreciate you guys that came and stopped by, and just said hello. Love to see the new names. Live to Play Guitar says, hi, your channel is great. I'm learning from you how to do the fret level. Thank you, man. Hey, let me know how it goes. If you need any additional advice, you can always leave me a comment, all right? Always happy to see that my videos are helping out. Ian said, good thing it wasn't David Lee Roth. He would have said jump. Might as well jump. That's true. That's true. Actually, if David Lee Roth ran into that poor woman, he'd probably still be there talking to her because he likes to talk. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Please come back again next week. We'll be back with more. I'll have plenty more to talk about. It's always great seeing and hearing from you guys. Now go out there and play your guitars. Have a great week, guys.